So these are the Ten Commandments. If we look at them, this second one actually, it looks really easy to keep. Uh, Out of all of them, it's probably the one I would be least likely to have a problem with. You shall not murder. I can try not to kill anyone. But you shall not make a graven image. This one seems strange. The rest we kind of have embedded in our societal norms, our laws. But to not make a graven image, and as it is with many things in Kabbalah, the least relevant things often end up being critical. The ones that are actually blocking us from success, from good feelings, from spiritual feelings. But this one doesn't seem that problematic, right? I'm not that into sculpture, ceramics. I don't plan on making really any graven images. But what does it actually mean? And it seems almost random, right? Why would you make such a commandment? But these are the commandments that apparently were given in the Torah, and all of the major religions have some version of this that they follow. And so we're going to discuss what is the inner meaning of specifically this second one, maybe the others if we get to it. Let's look a little deeper at this second one. So this is what it says in the Torah. It says, "You shall have no other gods before me." And this is apparently when the Jews came out of Egypt, and the Creator gave them the Ten Commandments, and this was the first. The first one was, the second one. You shall have no other gods before me. The first one is, I am the Lord your God. The second one is, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. This is actually a problem in human history, and even in modern times. I saw a story about a guy who has dolls on his shelf, and for him, that's the God that he worships. This is just an example. Also, Abraham is supposedly, he was an idol worshiper, and he broke all the idols and discovered that there's one creator in the world. So there is some kind of problem here. Is it modern? Does it matter to us? Is this something we even need to worry about? Let's see. So here's more Kabbalists, because we know that the Torah is a Kabbalistic text, and then there were later Kabbalists that also commented on it. It says in Maimonides' Mishneh Torah, it says, it is forbidden to form the image of a human being, even for decorative purposes. So to this day, there's like a tradition. Nobody really knows why, but when you go into some synagogues, for example, there won't be any human images. And if there are, they won't have faces. Here's another one from the Talmud. So the Talmud says, a Baraita teaches a human image is prohibited. All other images are permitted. Okay, so you're not allowed to make images. This is the least interesting of any of the commandments, and because we're probably not going to even do it anyway. Although it does get a little restrictive if I'm not allowed to even, draw a human or whatnot. So let's see what we're talking about here. And to what extent this has actually been kept, because here you have a synagogue in Syria. They found this synagogue where it looks like they were actually depicting humans. It looks like they were drawing the Torah story, which, even if you are going to depict some human, okay, that's one thing. But to depict the Torah story, this is a serious violation against this principle of do not make a graven image, because it's considered idol worship. And this is considered a very severe thing, a very severe commandment. But here you have a synagogue from, they think it dates to 245, the year 245 in Syria, where they have these murals on the walls showing all of the Torah, parts of the Torah story. We also have, this is called the Bird's Head Haggadah, and it actually doesn't seem to be violating what they said here in the Talmud, because it says a human image is prohibited, all other images are permitted. So maybe since this isn't a human image, it's actually permitted. It's showing the Torah story, the baking of the matzot, and that they, the bread of poverty that they baked real quick and then ate as they were exiting Egypt. It shows them baking there. So maybe this isn't violating. I have another example of my teacher's teacher, the Rabash. So on the left there is my teacher, Dr. Lightman, and on the right is another Kabbalist, his teacher, Rabash. So one time, one of the students brought the Rabash a book of Kabbalah, supposedly, and they wanted to show Rabash to see what he thought about it. And it had what you'll look at, what you can find on the internet very quickly if you start searching up Sfirot and stuff like that. So it had the Sfirot superimposed upon a human body. And Rabash was as if frightened, like he saw a ghost. From this, he turned away. He said, don't show me this. I don't want to see this. He didn't even want to look at it. Now, Kabbalists are not religious. They don't keep customs for no reason. They don't have beliefs. And they don't take also these commandments. They don't take them as commandments from the skies that we don't know what they are, why they are, and we just keep them. If the spiritual world is revealed, I need to give you this background to explain why Rabash was not wanting to look at this. So if the spiritual world is revealed, all of the religions basically disappear. As long as the spiritual world is concealed, so then everybody can make up their own religion. Because no one knows what happens after we die, what happened before we were born. No one knows if there's anything else that we can reach. And so I can invent my own religion right now. And if I show you with confidence that it's true and I really believe it till the end, I can probably get some followers to follow me. So if the spiritual world is revealed, then all of the laws of our world are revealed. The spiritual laws, which are concealed now, are revealed. They're concealed so that we will have free choice. But if the spiritual world is revealed to everyone, then all of the religions will disappear. Like Bala Sulam says, the Kabbalist Bala Sulam says, you could keep your customs. You could celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah. You could keep the customs, but it'll just be as a custom and not as a belief system. So we're talking here about Kabbalists who the spiritual world is revealed to them. And yet, even in this world, this Kabbalist did not want to look at this, what we would call a graven image. It's an image of a human being with sphirot superimposed upon this body. So why would he be scared of that? Well, let's see here what Rav Lightman, Dr. Michael Lightman says. He says, what is the Torah? Because the 10 Commandments come from the Torah. What is the Torah? When one breaks out into the spiritual realm, what one reveals there, that is called Torah. Okay? So that's what the Torah is. So it's not even not looking at graven images or something like that, or making something with our hands. It's not, the Torah is not even talking about this world. It's talking about something that is revealed in the spiritual world that isn't revealed to us yet. So what are these laws for us? Why are we not allowed to make a graven image? Well, the fear, let me say it differently. Forbidden in Kabbalah means impossible. So these are actually impossible. So to create a graven image, if you want to create like an image of Moses, for example, there was a movie released a few years back. I think it was like about Noah or Moses. And my teacher, Dr. Lightman, said, yeah, I wouldn't go see that. And why is it a problem though? Why? I mean, it's just a movie. Well, see, when we have these characters in the Torah, they're not people. But when we read this book, we think it's people. Okay? That's already a problem. Because for a person to correctly use this book called the Torah, they need to start discovering what these things actually are, which are just forces. And they have no image. And so if I'm then drawing it, it becomes imprinted on my mind. And now I have this image. So when you see a movie, when you see Moses acted out as a character, for example, it already solidifies what was previously just words on a page, which already confused me. It solidifies, brands into my brain, brands into my mind, this image. And now I have a double problem. I have the regular concealment that I'm in, my natural proclivity to depict these characters as human beings, as things that happened in history. And you can test this on yourself. Just read the Torah a little bit, and you'll see that even if you have Kabbalistic definitions in your head, you catch yourself reading it sort of as a history. And for the Rabash, this was all the more so a big problem if you talk about the Sphirot, because Kabbalists went to great lengths to unconfuse us from our illusions. So they wrote the Zohar, first of all, which kind of really confuses you about what, because it's seemingly a Torah commentary, right? And then all of a sudden, to this Torah, they're adding angels and demons and all kinds of fairy tales, it sounds like. So they're confusing us. And in so doing, they're unconfusing us. So we're actually in complete falsehood. And they're trying to bring us, sort of confuse our ego out of the lie that we're constantly in, like a fish in water that doesn't even know it's wet because it's wet all the time and has only ever been. So we're always in a confusion. To the Zohar, then, Kabbalists well, there's one Kabbalist that was capable, only one, of adding, because he had the same soul as the Kabbalist Rashbi, who wrote the Zohar. So the only one who was capable of really writing a commentary on this was called Bala Sulam, Yehuda Ashlag. And he wrote a commentary. And what it does is basically ruins the Zohar for my ego. Because if previously, in previous centuries, they were taking the Zohar and out of it coming up with, they were finding details and then making out of that like a red string you need to wear and something else you need to do. Holy water, they were finding little details that they could corporealize, which is exactly what we're talking about here in the number 2, you shall not make a graven image. So taking things out of it and then turning it into physical things. So Bala Sulam destroys this, obliterates it, by adding to the text an interpretation where by every sentence you have, instead of, say, Moses coming with the people of Israel out of Egypt, you have Malchut rising to Bina, let's say. And this just confuses me, but in a way that I'm kind of confused a little bit out of my lie. Meaning I realize that I have to accept that I don't know what it's talking about. And that's a really good thing. So the other direction, of course, is making a graven image. The other direction is that, no, I do know what these things are talking about. They're talking about this, and I draw it. I draw Moses. I draw Jews, the people of Israel, and it confirms the confusion that I have when I read the Torah naturally. And then we make a movie. Oh, it's dramatic. So it's even more visceral, emotional, and now I already have emotions attached to physical characters. And all of this is supposed to only happen inside of me, meaning I'm supposed to approach any text that is written by a Kabbalist, because a Kabbalist only writes about the spiritual world, the upper world, like Dr. Lightman says here, that what is the Torah when one breaks out into the spiritual realm, what one reveals there, all that is called Torah. And nothing that I perceive as history of a Jewish people and stuff like that, they just used such a people and such a place like Egypt to describe the constellation of inner forces inside you that you don't even know about yet. Right now, you only know about the forces such as vanilla ice cream and my dog is cute and my boss is bad and my wife was mean to me this morning and these kind of things, the relational things about our life. Those are the forces we know about. And we don't know about these upper forces that Kabbalists talk about. Now, so let's look one more time. Let's remember what I showed you here. So Rabash, why he would have such a problem with the Sphirot being superimposed on a human body. This is next level bad from drawing Moses or something like that. Moses, okay, it sounds like a human being, nothing you can do about it. Kabbalists write like that because we're built like that, because we're in a world where we see human beings and we can understand the constellation of forces through stories, like you can tell a moral of the story to a child. You can say, one time the little boy cried wolf too many times and got eaten by a wolf. And then the child internalizes it as something that maybe I shouldn't complain when I'm not really in trouble. And in this way, Kabbalists write to us these stories that should gradually build inside of us a certain system with certain relations between the parts. And even if we don't understand it now, later we will understand it. But in the case where the students brought to the Rabash, they brought him the Sfirot with the human. So his father, Rabash's father, Bala Sulam, he had written the commentary on the book of Zohar with the language of the Sfirot, specifically to get us out of this quagmire of ascribing these terms to human bodies and history and such. So he added these Sfirot. What do people do? They start drawing Sfirot, and they start drawing it over the human, and they start making drawings of it and paintings of it, and saying that it belongs to these Sfirot belong to beauty and honor. You know, they're starting to translate the Hebrew in a way that they understand, and then make all kinds of drawings out of it. Okay, so this is super forbidden, okay, because Bala Sulam created this bridge for us, between us, an adapter between us and this language of the Torah, by using the language of the Sfirot. What is the benefit of this? When you hear about Sfirot, Olamot, worlds, Partsufim, you can't, unless you have to be really committed to staying confused, to think that you know what that's talking about. To think that you have Sfirot and Partsufim in your life, in you in any kind of a way, you have to be dedicated to being confused. And so, you know, those who do not want to be in such imaginations, but want to come towards the truth, are interested in only studying these through Kabbalistic sources. So Rabash, because though he had revealed the spiritual world, he's still somehow, until the last spiritual 125th degree, you're still in this world. You live in this world. It does start to gradually disappear, meaning fade in importance and solidity compared to the spiritual world. But still, you're in this world and you're subject to this body, which, like it or not, no matter how smart I am, no matter how wise I am built this way. That what I see imprints me psychologically, however you want to describe it to yourself. It imprints you and it stays with you. And that's why Kabbalists are not really big on images. They don't try to, at least with respect, images in general, but with respect to spirituality, for sure, they do not have all kinds of spiritual drawings, spiritual art. Why? Because the creation of that is just, let me find a nice way to say this. You're distancing from the truth. As soon as I draw some beautiful picture of the Sfirot, it's already on the wall, like a note that I no longer remember because I could have just, or like we're always taking constantly pictures everywhere we go. You know, there were these ladies that went into space recently, right? It was all over the news, all over YouTube. And what are they doing when they're in outer space? Taking pictures, posing for the camera, instead of taking a picture in your heart. Okay, so we don't experience anything anymore. We just take pictures. Okay, I go to the Grand Canyon, I'm taking pictures. I go to Mount Everest, I'm taking, So first of all, this shows that because the moment I can think that I need to take a picture of this, that already means I've stopped enjoying it. And so I need to enjoy through other people seeing on my Instagram that I'm doing it. But the point is that we kind of lose our life in these pictures, and we can lose our spiritual life through pictures of spiritual things. Okay, so really, it's a restriction. It's a bit of a restriction that a person has to make. It's not what I want to do, right? Now, the most natural thing, the most natural approach to spirituality is what people did throughout history, which is to start doing red strings and stuff like that. It's not that we just want to badmouth the red strings. I think everyone's already over that. But throughout history, what did they want to do? They wanted to materialize these things. It's a natural inclination that fits perfectly into the general falling down into our world through the spiritual worlds, by which we start perceiving more and more of a physical reality, until all of a sudden I'm in an actual solid world. It's real, it's solid, and instead of feeling free, I'm in this world of actions. It's the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the world of Asiya, to the point where I don't even feel that I'm in a spiritual world anymore. In this last degree, the feeling of the creator also disappears. And also what disappears is the sensation that I was ever in a spiritual world. That is a true concealment. And now I feel myself just like a cow feels themselves, but even worse, the cows feel better. I feel myself as if I've existed for all this time, and my ancestors existed, and there's history. And all of this is essentially an illusion. And a materialization of what used to be a spiritual world, a world of forces which I could move through. There are conditions to move through it as well, of course. There's laws. But now these laws appear to me in other ways, like as court, judges, police officers, my boss. It appears to me like this. Now I want to break out of this lie. And so I'm given texts by which I will be able to do so. And so Kabbalists write to us. What do they write to us? Again, what does Dr. Lightman say? He says, what is the Torah? You can also just say, what is the Kabbalah? Because Torah really was just Kabbalah, but we materialized it. We decided it's about humans and so on. But really, it's not at all. And if something happened to happen in history, that's for the historians to decide. But Kabbalists weren't talking about that at all. And they could talk about, they could actually talk about these things that happened in history before they happened, after they happened. It's not important to the Kabbalist because he's describing an eternal world that exists above time and space. And did it actually happen? It has to, we've talked on this podcast before, that it has to, if it has a spiritual root, then it has to touch the branch in our world at some point, but it could be in a completely different way. You'll have it, okay? So like even crazy things like in the Torah, you have like the earth suddenly swallows somebody up. Can't happen, right? Well, there is such a thing, right? Even in Israel, there are sinkholes, and they can swallow you up, swallow you down into the ground. So everything that happens there could happen, and for sure will happen in some way, but not quite in the way. And so you'll have historians finding details, and then they'll say that this verifies something in the Torah, but other things they won't be able to find. And that's possibly because it happened in a totally different way than we're even imagining. So the Torah is, when one breaks out into the spiritual realm, what one reveals there, all that is called Torah. Now, here's something from Bala Sulam. There is a famous story about some guys that go into an orchard, Pardes in Hebrew, and Pardes it actually has another meaning. So it's called pshat, literal, remez, intimation, drush, interpretation, sod, secret. And so it looks like the order is, that's the order, right? And why is that relevant? Well, the pshat, or literal or simple, is called Torah. That's the Torah. And most people the people who have an opinion about this, think that you need to study the Torah first, and then a few other books that they call remez, drush. So you need to, and then finally, later, maybe, if you have time before you die, because it's going to take a long time for you to master the Torah, the Talmud, etc., then you can finally study the sod, the secret, which is Kabbalah. So often, if there are any Kabbalah books, in a synagogue or whatever, they will be locked away. Or it used to be this way. Now it's a little bit more, they actually started publishing a lot of Kabbalah books. And the reason they did that, there was a certain point when they decided to finally start publishing a lot of Kabbalah books to actually flood the market with Kabbalah books. And the reason why was because of this guy, because of Bala Sulam. Because he was the first one that came and explained in a down-to-earth way how every person can use this wisdom to come from the life that they're living, which nobody thinks is good. No matter what station in life one has reached, CEO, everyone knows it's just a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm doing the best that I can, of course, and I want to do better than others, but no matter where you reach, it's still, And so they flooded the market to reduce the impact of Bala Sulam, because along the lines of what I said, that if the spiritual world is revealed to all, the moment one reveals the spiritual world, no matter what religion they are, it's all canceled. You don't hate anybody. You love everybody. You feel that the world is filled with the Creator. You understand what all of these commandments are. You don't negate other religions. Kabbalah is not a religion. But you don't negate any other paths. It's not a religion because it's a system of laws that anybody from any background, any religion can break through if you have the methodology to do so. And it's so not a religion, Kabbalah, that when you reveal the spiritual world, it cancels all belief systems. There's no room for belief because everything is revealed. And you also see the relevancy, importance, and value of all of the religions, including the ones that think they can't coexist, that they don't belong together. Because, well, I'm not going to say why, but all of them have their place, especially with the correct interpretation of them, which generally over the thousands of years got lost. Just like you see here that the Torah now, people have no problem making, it can even be like a Jewish person can make a movie about Noah, about Moses. Nobody has a problem drawing these things. They don't see a problem. Draw the spherode on top of a human body. We can violate all the commandments. Eat pork, eat some bacon. Nobody had, just, it's all kind of out the window. So all of the religions kind of got this twist, and even within one of them, there's like many different kinds of Christians, many kinds of Jews. They all can hate each other and fight even within the same religion, let alone toward other religions. We can kill each other over it, but when we reveal the spiritual world, all that is canceled out. There is nothing to argue. We see the truth. We see where we were wrong, where we perhaps confused things. And that's why the general approach of Kabbalists is to not argue with anybody. And so if somebody comes arguing, you just let them be right. No problem. Let them be right with whatever they want to say. Because when the spiritual world is revealed, that's it. All those arguments are down the toilet and everyone quiets down. We all see the same world. Like everyone watching here could go to London. We'd see the same London, experience it in our own way. But we could agree on generally, like there's Big Ben, there's the Globe Theater. And that's why Kabbalists over the generations were able to write about the very same spiritual world, unpublished manuscripts, no contact between them, but you see they're writing about the exact same spiritual world. Because we all see the same thing. Now comes the question. So if this is the order, and because this is very relevant, right? They tell you don't study Kabbalah because it's Pardes. So it's in this order. First, you need to master the Torah, this one here. Then you can move on to like the Talmud and other things, right? And then later, maybe you can study Kabbalah. Well, turns out that Bala Sulam says, and this is why Bala Sulam infuriates people. This is just one example of why he infuriates people. Because he's saying this is their order and combination from above down to our world. But from our world, we actually have to start from Sod, from secret, from the wisdom of Kabbalah. Because only through that I will be able to understand higher things. And the last thing that I will be able to approach in a realistic way is the one thing I'm convinced I understand, right? The Torah story. So much so that I can make a Moses movie and just depict it casually. I think I've got that one locked down. But Bala Sulam says, and this is why he's so hated. He's so hated because he says you have to start with the wisdom of Kabbalah, and only then you have any hope of coming closer to the Creator. And if you try to come closer to the Creator without this, and you see, if we go the other way, right, we usually never reach the wisdom of Kabbalah, right? We just stop. We don't even do them all, right? We just stop at the Torah. I've got my religion, my beliefs, that's it. I don't need more. And that's fine. If you can be satisfied with that, that's great. But if a person needs more, and this is, so we don't sell this to anybody who doesn't need it, because the Creator wants everybody to be happy. And those who are happy, just being religious, that's great. You're giving the Creator contentment. He's happy that you're happy. But there are those who have more of a desire, a stronger desire to know what everything is for in our life, usually because we feel pain, but it could also be a very rich person who just feels a different kind of pain, a very accomplished, honored person, and they have a different kind of pain. So each with their own pain, and they need the wisdom of Kabbalah. And one who must know the goal, the meaning of their life, and has a desire to reveal the Creator in this life, this is the order that you must start with. So you have to start. You can do it simultaneously, but really start, you have to start with the wisdom of Kabbalah, because it's the only thing that really is about you in the state that you're in right now and what would be the next steps, like in a moment from now, to come to more spiritual states until you reveal the Creator. Here's what my teacher says about this. We need to reach Pshat, the simple explanation of the Torah. So far, we've been studying Sod, the hidden secret meaning. Sod means that I am studying, but I understand nothing. It's a secret to me. So that's actually what secret means. You see, this is why they hate Bala Sulam, because it's fine we need to busy ourselves for our entire life only reading the Bible and to not go beyond that. And maybe when you're 80 or something, you can do something else. And so you'll be busy doing a lot of things other than studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. So here, this was really a revolution that Bala Sulam created, a revolution that it was actually about you, this Torah, and through it you can reveal an upper world, the next world, Olam Haba, the Shemaim, the heavens, and that heaven isn't later after you die. It's like the moment you go through such inner changes that you are internally compatible with a different world than the one you're in that instant, 5 minutes from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now, 5 decades from now. But the moment you are compatible, you reveal heaven, the upper world, the Garden of Eden, and you can't reveal it in any other way except living in this world, gradually shifting an internal dial that happens through a force in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and it exists strongly relative to you in the wisdom of Kabbalah, but not in those other three that he talked about. Only in the Sod, the secret part. Now here's another interpretation that Dr. Lightman gives. He says it's called secret, not because you're not allowed, but because it's hidden to you still. That's the meaning. The spiritual world is not a secret in the sense that it's being hidden. It's that I hide it from myself by my incompatibility. I'm only with this incompatibility, with the way that I am, the way that I'm built from birth, I'm only able to reveal this reality I'm in and no other reality. There is no other reality, neither hell nor heaven, that you can reach, dead or alive, because your quality, which is not your body, it's something deeper behind your body. This quality, which your body is just an offshoot of, it's an animal like a cow, like any other thing. It's not you. It's like a pet that you have, but identify with for now. So it's secret. The spiritual worlds are secret. So that's why Kabbalah is called secret. When the secret becomes slightly clearer, it turns into remez. Slightly clearer, it's very gentle. We're actually talking about spiritual revelations here. But it's called here a hint. Then this is the process by which you reveal the spiritual world, like a flashlight you'll have in spirituality, that with greater brightness, you'll be able to reveal more of the spiritual world, more of the spiritual world, more. And it's in something called, should I say it to confuse everyone? It's called Or Hoser. It's called reflected light. And with this reflected light, you reveal the spiritual world. Right now, you don't have reflected light because you don't have a masak, a screen, a spiritual screen. We don't know what it is, can't find it anywhere in our mind, heart, or reality. and you don't have a spiritual screen because you don't have a simsum, restriction, over the will to receive for oneself. And so this is secret, but it gradually becomes revealed more and more. So then into the drush, the allegorical explanation, and then into the pshat, a simple explanation. There are four worlds, Asiya, Yetzirah, Bria, and Atzilut. Right now I'm studying the entrance to the world of Asiya. We still don't understand anything, and this means that we're studying the secret, the sod. Once we transition from the world of Asiya into a higher world, the world of Yetzirah, we study the drush. In the world of Bria, we'll study remez, and in the world of Atzilut, pshat. So you need to rise above the maksom, the barrier, into the spiritual world through four worlds, and then you can actually know what the 10 commandments are talking about, because they talk about the simple level. Pshat is the greatest attainment, when there is no concealment at all, and everything is clear, open, simple, and obvious. All the lights fill all the kilim vessels. I know and understand everything. Like I said, when you reveal the spiritual world, it's all revealed, all the laws of our world, all of the sciences, all of the history, the place of all the religions in history, why they needed to exist, why they're perfect, non-conflicting, and totally complementary. Every person needs to attain this in his or her soul, but on their own level until their complete correction. So this is what we need we need this correction in order to understand what these commandments are talking about. And very important is the second one. Actually, they're obviously all important. But the second one, you shall not make a graven image. It's very, very important, because instead of satisfying myself with an image or something that I'm imagining spirituality being, and this is a very big problem for beginners and veterans, okay, it's that since a person doesn't have spiritual attainment, they start trying to imagine what those things Kabbalists talk about are in my own life, right? So Kabbalists are talking about a screen, reflected light. Okay, where do I have that? Is that when I, do X, Y, and Z? Do I have sphero? Is that like when I'm thinking in a certain way or something? By that imagery, by that depiction, this is another level of you shall not create a graven image. It's actually not even that bad if you go and see the Moses movie compared to trying to imagine the sphirot in your life. They're not in your life. There's something very real as this cup, as real as the plant, the moon. Something very real, something not imaginary. So not something misty that happens in a dream or happens in a meditation or in your thoughts or your psychology. It's not in you. It's something that is above you. It's something that is elsewhere. It's actually your soul. You don't have access to that yet. Intentionally, that was concealed. And so we need to use this distance that we have. We need to preserve the distance that we have from these things. Instead of creating these images and imaginations about spirituality, we need to preserve this deficit that we feel. When we read the wisdom of Kabbalah, when we hear about the Sfirot, the Partsufim, the worlds, the world of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Keter, Hokmah, Bina, Zeranpen, we need to feel that I have nothing to do with this. And this gives me a deficiency to actually feel it. So I need to feel that I don't have it and have a deficiency to feel it. This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah should do. It should build in you the deficiency, because the only problem for revealing spirituality is you don't have a deficiency for it. As soon as you satisfy yourself with, oh yeah, the sphirot, or when I'm doing this, that, and the other, when you satisfy yourself with that, it feels good to say like, all right, so like when I do that, that's a restriction. And then when I do something else, that's my masak, that's my screen. And something else is a sphira. That satisfies me. That makes me feel good. All right, I'm on the right track. But I'm not. So I've double blocked myself. Spiritual world still concealed. But I have now put out the deficiency to discover the spiritual world, which has started to build. And that's actually what the wisdom of Kabbalah should do. That every time you come to a broadcast like this, or you open a book of ours, it gives you more of a deficiency. And the more you read, the more you hear, the more, even if it's in the background while you're washing dishes, the more you hear, the more it works on you and builds this deficiency until you reach what it's actually talking about, which is a spiritual revelation. With that, we'll conclude, and I'll see those of you from Kabu who are joining us for an exclusive Q&A Zoom session in the Zoom in a few minutes. Bye, everyone.